We are now entering that era in crypto when everyone realizes that the most famous mainstay blockchains have not kept the promises that brought us to crypto. They haven't used decentralization to create an equal economic playing field for everyone. And with their ridiculous and exorbitant fees and VC allocations, they seem to have only created a new banking, investment, and ACH like system for the very wealthy, while the rest of crypto seems to be asking itself if it is only traded one set of masters on Wall Street for another in Silicon Valley. Cardano feels completely different, precisely because of its relentless pursuit of fulfilling those broken promises of crypto. Ready? Let's go. We're going to discuss a little bit of an opening skirmish between the intelligentsia of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and how both sides might just be compensating for that nagging feeling in the back of their minds that their pet blockchain didn't quite end up going where it promised it would. I feel like Jack is like this lost soul, sort of stuck in this purgatory between Jack, the Twitter founder, and Jack, the Bitcoin maximalist. Because while one of the central pieces of sort of the Bitcoin ethos, and by extension, the ethos of all of crypto, is that the ledgers should be censorship resistant. And Twitter, let's face it, Twitter is like a censor's wildest fantasy. Anybody who's into censorship would love being at the helm of Twitter. This is like the greatest thing ever if your whole goal is to censor people on the other end of the political spectrum from you, or the other end of whatever spectrum you're interested in. I feel like he's sort of stuck between these two. And what I wonder now that he's actually left Twitter and he's trying to sort of exit this purgatory, I wonder if he's discovering that there are things about Bitcoin that are a little bit unsettling, that don't quite jive with this utopian fantasy of decentralization and censorship resistance and all the impacts we hoped those things would have on creating a more level economic playing field for, basically all the people of the world. I think when he left Twitter and he could sort of devote his full attention to Bitcoin and he looked at the actual impact of Bitcoin in the world, there are a lot of great things, but it doesn't quite live up to those those promises we sort of all read into the Satoshi white paper. And now it looks like he's venting that anger on Ethereum. In this post, he says, I'm not anti ETH. I'm anti centralized, VC owned, single point of failure, and corporate controlled lies. This is pretty strong language. If your goal is anti establishment, I promise you it isn't Ethereum. Even stronger language. He's straight up telling you Ethereum represents the establishment. He says, don't believe or trust me, just look at the fundamentals. Of course, everybody who was on the Ethereum side of things went nuts, and it spawned this gigantic thread with a huge number of responses, 1,876 retweets, crazy amount, 10,900 likes, giant thread, a lot of people commenting on it. Even Elon Musk jumped in here down below when someone said, I mean, my goal is to build stuff and make money and have fun. I'm used to the corporate establishment and don't really see any meaningful break away from it. Bitcoin just gives power to new rich people. Elon said, that's why I'm pro Doge. I laugh every time I see Elon pop up in any kind of crypto related thread because I love Elon, but it's still very unclear to me how much Elon actually understands about crypto. I think that dude understands a huge amount about things like space travel, space travel, electric vehicles, building tunnels, these kinds of things. And I think he's made some massive contributions there. At least the entities that he's a part of have made massive contributions. I'm still very, very unsure about how much of his brain he's actually been able to devote to crypto. Of course, the Ethereum supporters got all up in arms. This poster, who apparently, according to his Twitter profile, is the VP of growth at I Trust Capital, said, You are wrong, and I can guarantee you aren't willing to openly debate any respected Ethereum community members. Save face while you can. I love, I love how serious it is. Save face while you can. Another poster pointed out that 80% of the Bitcoin network is controlled by 5 mining pools. Bitcoin maximalists, of course, started pointing to VC and institutional funding in Ethereum. Here's one article that was linked about Consensus, which is kind of a key player in Ethereum, raising $65 million from JP Morgan, MasterCard, UBS, Fenbushi, Alameda, all the kinds of usual suspects. Even Adam Back of Blockstream, who Charles thinks is a good candidate for the Satoshi identity, jumped in with this. The scam genesis and scamminess of its promoters is a bit of a hard no for many, also, even other problems aside. I mean, it's Adam Back. Of course, he's going to be pro Bitcoin and anti Ethereum. I thought this response was maybe one of the most damning of Ethereum. So, this is the CEO of CoinList, if I'm not mistaken, and he posted this. I don't know what project this was this was governance of. I don't know where this came from, but apparently there was some kind of a vote, and you can see for whatever the proposal was, the against vote was 3,267. The for vote was 1.3 million and change. And when you look at the three, I'm assuming these are the three top voters, it was A16Z, Polychain Capital, and Bain Capital Ventures. I'm sure if you're in crypto, you're probably pretty familiar with these two entities, A16Z and Polychain. Bain Capital Ventures was formed by Mitt Romney and some other Bain and Company partners in 1984. I think the poster's point is well taken. That's the kind of entity that got to determine this vote. I don't think this is the kind of crypto decentralization any of us had in mind. This poster had a really funny response to this. He said, "Good to see 18th century democracy back in action." Again, I have no idea what the context of this is, but just looking at it, I mean, pretty damning. But of course, catering to the wealthy is not the sole domain of Ethereum. Here we have Caitlin Long, whose analysis of the currently happening collision between banking and crypto I respect greatly. With this post, she says, high transaction fees on proof of work blockchains are a feature, not a bug. Block space on the Bitcoin blockchain is a scarce asset, as it should be. High value transactions need high security and decentralization. Low value transactions, less so. Of course, there's a million ways we could lawyer this up. We could spin this, and explain it in a bunch of different ways. But the whole premise, high transaction fees on blockchains are a feature, not a bug. This to me represents sort of a capitulation that we're not going to have affordable fees on a blockchain. And I don't think that is what any of us had in mind when we first learned about this crypto thing and got excited about it. I think this is just the beginning of intensified squabbling and infighting between Ethereum and Bitcoin maximalists. The only thing they seem to agree on is that they're both okay that neither blockchain has fulfilled the implied promise of greater financial inclusion and a more equal economic playing field for everyone. That's where Cardano comes in. I think one of the big reasons that the Cardano community is so passionate about Cardano is that Cardano never capitulated, it never surrendered on those core promises of crypto. The army of spies is a very global cohort of Cardano enthusiasts, and I know for many of you, this is not actually a holiday season. So I want to wish you a happy holiday, no matter what part of the year your biggest holiday falls in. But for many of you, it is a holiday season. So I'll just give you two examples of the ways in which Cardano seems to be pursuing these core promises of crypto more intensely than any other big blockchain. So here's a post from Cardians, and I think it's a pretty important post. It's simple, but I think it's important. This is about the number of block validators in some of the the biggest blockchains. the biggest, Gen 3 platform competitors. Here we have Tezos at 378, Terra at 130, Phantom at 52, Polkadot at 989, Avalanche at 1202, Solana at 1339, and Cardano at 3140. So people were giving Cardians trouble down below, saying that the graph actually doesn't show Cardano's lead enough. And I think they're right. I mean, obviously, these two bars should be half the size of Cardano's bar, less than half the size of Cardano's bar. And there was a really funny post down below here. Ed and Ada is basically Solana's worst nightmare. Even this is not enough. He says Solana's network is effectively run by 19 validators. This is super hilarious because I mean, this should be embarrassing for these networks. And he's pointing out, he's making the case. I'm sure he could make the case, but he's just making the statement here. The 19 validators actually run Solana. Very similar, very consistent with his other thread he made about how he thinks the TPS claims of Solana are vastly exaggerated. Both super hilarious items. Worst nightmare for Solana. But I think we all know that Cardano, out of all these big Gen 3 competitor blockchains, Cardano is by far the most decentralized. And that's one of the requisite ingredients to the blockchain actually fulfilling those implied promises of crypto. We've already seen from the histories of Ethereum and Bitcoin that it's very difficult to meet those other goals of crypto if the validation of your blockchain is controlled by a small handful of pools. That's been true in proof of work, and it will also be true in proof of stake. If a small group of actors, even if they're just the actors controlling a pool, if a small group of actors control some large amount of the validation, it becomes extremely difficult to meet the other goals of crypto for any given blockchain. It's also extremely hard to argue that Cardano's not winning the race on financial inclusion and also creating that level economic playing field that was very much a part of the implied promises of crypto. Just watch this video from World Mobile. Here's one of the best videos I've seen explaining exactly how World Mobile is using the Cardano blockchain to provide what today in our modern times, let's face it, we talk about it like it's just simple internet access, like it's just simply the ability to make a phone call. But what really is a prerequisite for having any economic power, the access to the information, all of the information in the world, that's become a requisite for any modicum of economic power in 2021 on planet Earth. And here we have Cardano enabling World Mobile to provide that to people who don't currently have it. How are you going to argue that any other blockchain is this far advanced in creating that level economic playing field that was definitely a part of the implied promises of crypto? I'm really happy with how far Cardano has come in 2021. This is crypto, so everybody's obsessed with price and charts and breakouts and breakdowns and all of these things that just have to do with our own pocketbooks. But if we think back to the foundations of crypto, it's very hard for me to make an argument that Cardano is not leading the way in terms of actually fulfilling the promises of crypto. I hope for those of you for whom this is a holiday weekend, I hope you have a great holiday season, and I'll talk to you soon.